to A Web of Stories. My name is Melinda. It's Tuesday, which means it's Tag Tuesday. Today I am doing the anti-TBR book tag. This is, I don't know where this tag started or the origin of it, but I saw it on Danny Dabble's page, who I will link below, and I'll put her video there as well for you to check it out. I just thought this was a fun one. It was a different way of looking at some of the same questions you see on a lot of tags, so I thought I would give it a try. There are eight prompts here. So the first one is a popular book everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. And mine is, I pulled it up here already, and that is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Now, my reason for not being interested in it has absolutely nothing to do with the quality of this book. I have heard nothing but raves about this book, and I'm sure it is fantastic. It, however, is not the kind of book that speaks to me. It sounds like it is high fantasy, and high fantasy is difficult for me. I think I've only successfully in that I tried to read, I finished, and I enjoyed, at least on some level, one high fantasy book. And there's not enough in that. Sorry, you can hear my computer clicking. Someone just posted on Discord. There's not enough in the description of the book that entices me enough to get me over that hump. And it's not that it's not that this book is not great. It's just not a book that speaks to me. But I really hope that everyone who is reading it really enjoys it, because it does sound like it is quite a good book. Again, just not for me, and I'm not going to be reading it. Prompt 2, a classic book or author you don't have an interest in reading. I'm going to go with author, and I'm going to say Dostoevsky, but basically Russians. I have read a couple Russian novels. I do not consider Lolita to be a Russian novel. It's an American novel. The author just happened to be of Russian descent. But I've read Anna Karenina, which I didn't even hate. To be fair, I did not hate Anna Karenina. Well, I kind of hated the character Anna Karenina, but I did not hate the book Anna Karenina. But it was a hard read at times for me. I read A Day in the Life of Ivan Desinovich. Is that what it is? I don't know. Which wasn't even that long. But, you know, just the Russian worldview, I think, is one that doesn't. This doesn't do it for me. I'm like, man, and they tend to be long. So it's quite an investment of time in a book that that doesn't even speak in a way that speaks to you. So I'm going to say Dostoevsky just as a stand-in for basically Russian authors. But if you enjoy them, go for it. I'm putting this here, so if my bookish best friend sees it, she can, I live in hope that she will quit telling me I need to read these books, but she hasn't in like a decade, so I don't know why I think putting it in a video will change that. But there you go. Prompt 3, an author whose books you have no interest in reading. So I've done a whole video on this. I'm going to put a card up on it, mostly because the perfect answer for this is an author whose name I promise to never speak on my site again after that video. So check that video out, mostly for that. But if I am going to think of an author past that, I'm gonna say it, and I am not at all condemning people who like this author's books, because whatever brings you joy, and I wish joy for everybody. But I have no interest in reading Colleen Hoover. I have picked up a book in the bookstore. I've read a bit of it, and I know enough of her content, and I know her writing style to know that these are not books that work for me. That's fine. But if she brings you joy, go for it. Just embrace the Colleen Hooverness. There you go. I hope you're happy. I hope that her books make you happy and continue to make you happy, because reading should do that. Okay, next question, which I actually did have an answer for, and then I realized I couldn't answer for the one before. An author you have read a couple of books from and have decided their books are not for you. This might be a spicy opinion. I think it's actually the same one Danny had for this question, but it is Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, I've read Taylor Jenkins Reid, and it's not that I dislike her books. It's that they're fine. That's kind of how I personally felt about my experience reading her books, was that it was just fine. It wasn't going to rock my world, and I've read enough of those that I don't want to spend time on a book that I know going in is just going to be fine. I know people love her books. Great. have fun. I enjoy them. I'm glad they are there for you. They're just works that don't work for me, and that's fine. That's fine. I actually, another slightly spicy opinion of this, Taylor Jenkins Reid is similar to a few other authors. Lisa Jewell is one that comes to mind, where they started writing one kind of book and then a change came and then they started writing another kind of book. So Taylor Jenkins Reid's earlier books are kind of like romancy. They're not romances, but they definitely have a romantic element in them. I actually like her earlier books better, but she's not writing those anymore, which is fine. She can write whatever she wants, whatever she needs to write the books that she has in her to write. And that's great. And they bring a lot of people joy, and that's wonderful, but they're just fine. They're not, there's not enough of a draw there for me to pick them up. Okay. Number 5, a genre you have no interest in or a genre you tried to get into and couldn't. I'm going to have to go back to high fantasy on this. As I've said, you can hear my cat complaining about something. Apparently the birds outside are being jerks and she's not allowed outside to go outside and kill them. But fantasy is a genre, fantasy in general is a genre I was actually actively discouraged from reading as a child. So it took me a while to get into fantasy, and I'm getting more and more into it. High fantasy is sort of the top of the mountain, and I'm still in the foothills, and I don't know if I will ever get to the top of the mountain. I'm not saying I will never read a high fantasy book, but there's got to be a real draw for me to get there to read that book. And the only one I've read that I made it through and read and was the Rebecca Roanhorse one. Is that Black Sun was the name of it? I'll put the cover up here, whichever one it was. And even that's part of a series, and I've only read the first one, and I enjoyed it, and I'm not going to continue in the series because it was hard. You know, it took me a long time to settle into it, and I don't have that desire to go there again with that, even though I enjoyed this book and I adore this author. That's again, that's the mountaintop and I'm in the foothills. So maybe someday I'll get there, but right now I'm going to have to say high fantasy. The next one, a book you have bought but will never read. This can be a book you have unhauled or returned to the library unread. I actually already have gotten rid of this book, and I can't remember the exact name of the book, but it was by, hold on a second, this author. And I bought it, very excited to read it, and then news came out about that author. And if you've heard me talk about this before with problematic authors, I feel that like once... You know, if you've enjoyed their book, the books belong to the world, that's fine. Have that enjoyment for the book. It's very rare that you think that it was World War III with the stupid birds out there and the cat. I don't know. I don't even know if you can hear that. It's just all I hear is, ah, ah, ah. You know, I use J.K. Rowling as an example. I enjoyed the Harry Potter books, and her behavior since then is not going to change my enjoyment of those books because they belong to the world. It doesn't belong to her. And, but with that particular case, I had not read that book yet. And when the news about that author broke, and, I can't stomach that. I don't, while I still have enjoyment for this book, which, you know, I had a whole thing about this book and whether or not I should put this in a little free library. I still have enjoyment from this book, and his behavior is not going to take away from this book. I'm not going to read anything more by it. So I will look up and see what book that was. It was the last book he published because he hasn't published anything since then. But that book is one that I bought. I mean, I pre-ordered it and everything, and then I donated it because I don't want it on my shelves. I'm not going to read it. Put it out in the world. Other people can make their choice about that. So that's one. Okay, next one. A series you have no interest in reading, or a series you started and have DNF'd. Okay, I'm going to say the Finlay Donovan series. I actually didn't hate that first book, but I read it at a time when I was especially open to just silliness. And so I think if I had read that book like a week earlier or a week later, I would have hated it. One of my biggest pet peeves with books is when the plot completely depends on people just making stupid decisions over and over again. And that was the Finlay Donovan plot, which it happened to hit me at a good moment. Shortly before, after that, I read Dial A for Aunties, which I could not stand for the exact same reason. And even my bookish best friend is like, how can you like one and not the other? And I will tell you what, if I went back and reread Finlay Donovan, I'd hate it. It's just like, it's a thing that doesn't work for me, and I'm not going to continue with it. So I will say the Finlay Donovan books. And finally, a new release you have no interest in reading. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to say The Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese. I recently read his other book, Cutting for Stone. I read it last year for a book club. By the way, not a good book club if you meet every month, because that book's long. And I believe that The Covenant of Water is even longer. And I enjoyed Cutting for Stone, but it was such an investment that I just don't have interest in taking that investment again, at least not right now. Now, there may come a point in the future where I feel differently about it, but I know a lot of people say, are you going to read The Covenant of Water? And I know that it's a celebrity book club for something. Is it Oprah? I don't know. One of them. It's a celebrity book club. But yeah, that's just too much of an investment for me for a book that, if I'm going to read a book that is that long, I want to be excited about it going in. And I'm not excited about The Covenant of Water. So I'm going to say no to that one. Could change. I am a person who can admit when I'm wrong, but I'm going to say The Covenant of Water. Now, there isn't a prompt to tag people, but I am going to tag some people because I am. I don't know how long this tag has been going around, and I don't know who's done it or not. So I have 3 people I'm going to tag. As always, when I tag someone in a tag video, it's just a mention. I'm thinking of you. Do this if you would like. There's no obligation, and I am not hurt if you choose not to do it, but you might enjoy it. So I'm going to tag Bandana Bookworm. I'm going to tag Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading, and I'm going to tag Kelly Ann Mitchell. And also, if you haven't done this tag and it sounds like fun, give it a try. I'd love to see your answers. And also check out Danny Dabble's video, which is linked in the description box below. Thank you very much, and give this video a like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.